Okay. Okay. So, a 45-page document just got posted around 40 minutes ago, and it is a very important document. I so far I've only read the first two paragraphs, but seeing how seeing how important it is and the fact that the people behind this document keep stressing that you need to read through it all, I feel like I should be I should be making a video out of this. I should be making an audio version of this because this is a 54 page document. You might not have the time to read all of this, so right now I don't have it on screen, but I'm also going to record it so that I can edit down if I need to. But here we go. Addressing Barreto Arts and the future of the RXD derivative work server. Introduction. This document aims to explain the current situation surrounding the user Barreto Arts, or Barreto, and his involvement with the Rockman X-Dive Derivative Works modding server, as well as the various half-truths, contradictions, and migrations that followed. Disclaimer: to prevent people from skipping through important context, this document lacks headers. In this scenario, we would like everyone to fully read the document for a full understanding of the situation. Thank you very much. To anyone who was or is friends or had some small interactions here and there with Barreto Arts, this document aims to hopefully shed some light about what's been happening behind the curtains, as most people are unaware from the perspective of the other side. We have also chosen to only include the chronological context beginning close to the 17th of October and beyond as the problems sprang from this date. However, we are not afraid to include the problems with Beyonce that date, much longer prior to said date, as we are fully aware that Yeonseok is not an administrator without problems. With that being said, going forward, ownership of the server and all management responsibilities will be transferred to Dark Hunter, with the agreement of both the staff team and Yeonseok himself. We feel that this is the best decision for all parties involved due to the following context in this document, which we again advise to read in full. Some names in the following document have been censored to keep this document focused solely on us and Barreto and to avoid needlessly getting third parties involved. Preface. Barreto, also known as Barreto Arts, was once a prominent member of the Rockman X Dive Derivative Works server and the group known as the Cabal, heading various notable projects such as the Prometheus, Grey and Ash, and the Blade Armor X custom character projects, among many others, with the help of many others and the server leader Yeon Seok. However, due to an incident in which fears about a mass migration of server members were made public by staff in the announcement channel and getting in general chat, things quickly began to spiral out of control, leading to many people leaving the server and expressing their dissatisfaction. This incident has been referred to as the mass exodus. Barreto was one of the people that left the derivative works during this time, and according to him, the primary reason he left the server was due to the relationship he had with Yeonseok. Particularly, he had problems with some of his behaviors, things he said, and his leadership. After this incident, Yeon apologized to Barreto for his personal shortcomings as a leader, and they achieved a mutual reconciliation. Things seemed to be going well for the next 2 months until Barreto decided to block Yeon on every social media platform and banned Yeonseok from his Discord server on December 24th in a sudden manner, locking away any method of communication without any explanation given. For Discord specifically, it was an unfriend plus locked DMs to friends only, plus ignored on the 24th and a block on the 27th. On other platforms, he was already blocked prior to the latter date. Chronology of events. Part 1. Around October 17th of 2025, a poll was made by Kikasum to gauge people's interest on condensing the server into 3 main channels, to which everyone objected. It was noticed that some people started leaving right after this. Yeonseok and Kikasum began bad-mouthing Barreto indirectly by implying members were leaving to join his server instead, thus a mass exodus. During this time, other staff members, Dark Hunter and Nanashi, were contacted by Barreto to raise his concerns about the leadership's handling of the situation. Barreto did not want to confront the leadership directly at first, and instead wanted to use third parties to communicate. He had blocked Yeonseok during this time. No, but if you got a problem with this leadership, you should tell him so. Is on them, correct that after that. Sorry for the late reply, I got called downstairs. Unfortunately, I'm not the confrontational type, so I don't typically address leadership directly about these issues, and I need time to think. This is all going to go too fast for me to digest. Eventually, Barreto was finally able to be convinced that he should talk things out personally with Yeonseok, and it ended on a good note of reconciliation. But no promises to return to the derivative work server. Yo, just letting you know that I've reconciled with Yeon already in private. We talked things out. Though with that said, I'm still not returning to the River Works anytime soon after everything that's happened. I'm still trying to find my own peace after everything that's happened, and some distance will definitely help me do that. Therefore, I'll just continue my work in my personal server instead. As part of the reconciliation, Yeonseok and Kikasum posted public apologies and an outline of events to be transparent with the server members. Kikasum was also removed from his leadership position, and Yeonseok started to have less to do with DW. Yeonseok was even allowed back into Barreto's server. Importantly, during reconciliation, Barreto denies any hostility and grievances and repeatedly acknowledges Yeonseok's efforts to apologize. Hello everyone, Kikasum here. I would like to greatly apologize for the panic I have caused recently. I have caused much stress and drama due to the lack of clarification regarding my intentions with the server, and my jokes that were insensitive and not appropriate for a server. I apologize. If it is not too late, I would like to say I made my announcements out of panic, and other administration team members are not involved. I was only looking to rearrange some channels to create the impression of more activity. The server was not going to disappear. There was no plans to delete any mods. There are also no plans to upload the mods in a different place. On the surface level, I am not informed of such decision. If such plans were made, it is not my doing. I can no longer fix the damage caused to the server, and I have made many members lose faith in the server and its manager. Please do not blame Yeonseok for the instance of today and yesterday, and send your problems to me instead. I have stepped down from any moderator position from the server and returned ownership to the server to Yeonseok. Please do not say hurtful things to Yeonseok for the situation. It is not his fault, it is my own fault. And please do not say hurtful things to other moderators, they are not part of this decision. Thank you for those who will stay in the server. Please keep making mods for RXD. I apologize one more time for causing inconvenience, panic, and drama. If you have any questions, just ping or send private message, and I am not scared to answer your questions. Hello everyone, it's a personal note from Yeonseok, your server owner. After a loud discussion, reconciliation, and agreements with everyone involved and affected, I would like to firstly apologize for actually being the real feeder of the mass exodus hysteria, which involved accusing members of migrating to a moderator's private server. However, that was clearly not in the degree it was exaggerated to be at all. It was me feeding into an insensitive joke that added more hysteria, while proceeding to blame it on other parties, and most especially Kikasum, who took the weight of my blame, and for that, I would like to issue my utmost sincere apologies to all parties I have caused unsavory feelings to. This also may or may not have involved personal unsavory remarks from me that may or may not be in the server, which I would also like to apologize for such. Secondly, I would like to apologize for not de-escalating the situation sooner and instead playing into it. I have absolutely no good excuse for my behavior of both self-panicking and self-inflicting panic as well as making the situation look even more dire by not de-escalating it as soon as the problem arose. I did not help by feeding into the panic as well as not being accountable in chat by constantly insisting blame on others. And for that, I would like to again sincerely apologize to everyone. A TLDR of the chronology of events, in case you didn't read about. Yeah, it's a TDR. And I would like to read through all of this, but it didn't take long for me to. Time taken was more of me figuring out how to do the. How do I revert the mess we've made or I've made? Okay, okay, okay. I'll read through it. So it's not just you and DW that I heard. I also heard. I can't pronounce that. Sion. I'll say it. I'll go with that. Siongyun? Siongyun. The guy who bailed work multiple times to check if I had a pulse. The reason I can still breathe today. As for that, I like to be held accountable. I've been looking for that. I just didn't want to say the wrong things, which is why I wanted to talk to you first. Because I felt, it, even if it was indirect or whatnot, the mass exodus joke was basically attacking you indirectly to some degree, and the least I'd want to do is attack a friend for quite literally no reason at all. It's not like you did anything wrong. Sorry, was there anything you like? Was there something you'd like to add? Yes, please do. It takes a lot of humility, and I can see you're genuinely reflecting on that, so by that, I forgive you. I appreciate that, and I trust your honesty. Therefore, I don't think there's anything left unspoken between us. That's understandable. I actually just asked first for now in case you wanted to see my public apology, but I think I'll just have forwarded to you. I'm quite open to being fully transparent, so I'd like to ask if you're okay with me name dropping your server, as in I was accusing it in the chronology. I plan to provide one. If you feel like doing so, I don't mind. It should give people a breath of fresh air again. I appreciate that, although I think seeing it isn't necessary right now. What matters is that I've heard you here. Thank you, but I don't mind, because integrity is part of being accountable, and that's what I promise to be. Okay. Fast forward to December 17th of 2025. Yeon Seok posted an update regarding the custom character project for Over 1. In this post, he mentions he was going to start working on rough 3D animations for the character, which was normally Barretto's job for group projects. This sparked the second incident. Hello, perhaps it's time for some updates regarding transparency since it's near the end of this year about what I feel about this project and or where it's heading. I know most of our visitors do not care too much, but for the 0.335% that might be wondering why I lock the thread on and off is usually to bookmark if I'm currently working on Over 1 or not. And the truth is, I'm quite passive on the project most of the time. But recently we have created an entirely new Dragon Bones in key art as shown above. If you like it, great. If you don't, I'm not reverting it to the previous artwork for a multitude of reasons. Create unique debuff VFX for Over 1's debuffs. Yes, even his debuffs are unique, so please be excited. Roughly start 3D animations for Over 2. We're still learning curves as we're new to 3D animation. Please look forward to it either way. Putting his skills at a functional state. We're currently 90% there in this case. I'm struggling with finding people to playtest the mod currently, but with the very minimal tests done so far, there have been no issues fortunately. This project may fall short of your expectations, especially with everything that's happened so far. I simply want to be transparent with where this project is going in case people think it's canceled because of slow updates. This may have caused fear of Barretto that he was being replaced on the project, and possibly any future projects. Shortly thereafter, on December 24th, Christmas Eve, Yeon Seok suddenly found himself blocked by Barretto on every platform, Discord, Facebook, Twitter, even the game Honkai Star Rail, as well as being kicked and banned from his server. Trying to get information on what was going on, it was relayed through Nanashi that Barretto no longer found it fun to work with or associate Yeon Seok and wanted to move on despite reconciling before. During this conversation, it was clarified to Barretto that there was no intention to replace him on the Over 1 project. Yeon Seok just wanted to do some rough drafts using the model itself to get an idea of what he wanted for the character animations as well as the project leader. In the end, nothing was even done on that front because of busy schedules. Please tell Yeon that this decision isn't about bad blood. I just personally don't find it fun to associate or work with him anymore, which is why I feel it's best for me to move on, even though we've already reconciled before. Whether he believes that or not is up to him. If he has an issue with me managing the Twitter page, I'll simply rebrand it to something that does reference RXD community. The only reason he's still in the Cabal group chat is that he still needs access for the Over1 project with the other members. Regarding Over1's animations, if you still need help, I'm willing to assist. As I said, I would, but from here on, I'll be coordinating through. These are the redacted names that the beginning of the document said before. I'll pass the animation files to them. I want to ask something. Yeah? When you were making that announcement about wanting to make animations for Over1 alone, did you tell Barreto beforehand? Nope, because we didn't get anywhere. We just wanted to study his model for us. We haven't gotten anything out. I wanted to try and experiment with something. Nothing. I never said I kicked him out of the project. I'm the one making a decent chunk of the VFX, so I need to sort of see what would match whatever I'm doing. If you wondered what I meant by roughly started, I'm just drafting because I cannot sketch that stuff for the life of me. Yeonsiak was then informed he was no longer able to talk Barreto directly, even for group projects. Barreto offered to continue helping with the Over1 project if needed, but only by using the other members to communicate, which does not make for a good working environment due to misunderstandings that can frequently happen. Barreto indirectly implies that the only reason Yeonsiak is still in the Cabal group chat is for him to finish his existing project, and that was to be kicked out immediately following the completion of this project, contradicting his later claim that he is not attempting to cut him off from his friends. Barreto managed the social media for DW and his projects, and so... Sorry, I'll retry that. Barreto managed the social media for DW and his projects, and so as part of his new stance, he offered to rebrand it if DW didn't like him controlling it still. In an effort to try and reconcile things once more, Nanashi again tried to convince Barreto to talk things out. We were informed that Barreto was going to talk with us following the holidays, but that ended up not being the case at all. A miscommunication because of having to go through other people instead of being able to talk directly. What did he say specifically? He said he purposely ignored your friend request so that he can find the time and space to talk to you. So again, I asked just to be patient. He didn't say no and he didn't reject you. Alright. Further talking with Barreto on December 27th was unfortunately mishandled on our part because of this miscommunication. In an act of desperation, a highly personal and sensitive pastebin about Yeonsiak was sent to Barreto without Yeonsiak's consent, and this was not condoned by anyone else who was privy to the contents of that pastebin. This resulted in the complete shutdown of communication between both parties and Barreto deciding not to ever return to DW. Yeonsiak was then unfriended and blocked. Barreto also went ahead with the rebranding of the DW Twitter profile and paid to receive the blue checkmark. Rico WIP title.exe under construction. We'll be back after the new year. This puts us in an awkward predicament because now, while the Twitter profile was run by Barreto, the content was made for the DW server and his projects. Rebranding it to advertise himself and his server instead of where the content originated from, plus the added benefit of already having a user following for that account, it makes it seem relatively underhanded, as we also lose a following that had been built up through our server. Sometime between December 24th and 28th, further targeted actions were taken by Barreto, who made videos private only for Yeonsiak's projects. Barreto also tried to claim new ownership of group projects like Blade Armor X, even after the refusal from the original leader of this project. This information is important as users on Barreto's side of the scenario are likely not aware of this information. Sorry to disturb again. I didn't want to get involved, but he's a hard person to argue with. Since you wish to move on and be unaffiliated with DW, would you be willing to relinquish its socials to us, the Twitter and the YouTube? I understand the DW YouTube is your personal account, so he asks for a removal of the content rather than a transfer of ownership. Trust me, I hate all of this too, but I don't know how else to keep everything from blowing up again. I'll try not to bother you again if I can help it. Hi, no worries. I get that you're tired of all this, and I believe you when you say you don't want things to blow up again. The reason he's hard to argue with isn't because people are unreasonable, but because for a long time, all of us, and myself included, enabled him too much, whether intentionally or not. The more people indulge his narrative and victim card behavior, the more he believes he can get away with escalating things, even if it means dragging everyone else down to the pit with him. That's also why I'm stepping away and drawing a hard line now. As for the socials, no, I will not be relinquishing them, and I won't be removing content from my personal accounts. I created and ran those spaces and made those videos myself. The only exception is Shoes trailer, which I'm fine with separately out of respect for the people involved. Everything else stays. Personally, I think that Blade should still be a DW thing since we did make it in DW and Yeon didn't end up deleting it. That's the problem. If Yeon deletes it, it's a way of saying that he disowned it. He won't relax. It wasn't him who even did it. No, you don't get it. Yeon 100% burned the bridge with me already. Even Anashi and Horn blocked me as well. I got banned in RXD community as well. Personally, I just don't want to risk anything between both of you. Praying emoji. I do, but on my end, I don't want to hurt Yeon or you. You don't have to do anything. I just want you to understand the current situation as it is, that's all. Well, I'm trying to. Well, that's all I wanted, honestly. You don't need to take sides or do anything. I just wanted you to have the full picture. We can leave it there. But anyway, thanks for listening. Alright, you two. I'll make sure Blade Armor X is in good hands under the new name as well. On December 29th, a DW staff member made the decision to remove Barretto's project threads, since he had made it clear he no longer wanted anything to do with DW at this point. This is not done out of spite, but rather a quiet disassociation. Note that it happened in response to Barretto's voluntary privating of Yeon Seok's project, specifically his projects. This is from December 29th and 28th. Prometheus, Model A, Blade Armor X. Prometheus, Model A, and Blade Armor X are deleted. Okay. Acknowledgement of our issues. Purpose. It is imperative that we make this clear. Both Yeon Seok and the rest of the staff team acknowledge the problematic behavior displayed by Yeon Seok and related parties, such as Kikasum and Sigyeon. Seon. I'm sorry. The behaviors taken have contributed to much of the tension and mistrust between not only Barretto, but also the rest of the Derivative Works community. This section is dedicated to recounting both the staff's and Yeon Seok's own claims of the displayed behavior prior to the major incident on the 24th of December and distinguishing accountability from retrospective justification of later actions. Main kinds of problematic behavior. This will address a few of the problematic behaviors displayed, including personal apologies and reflections done by the individuals. Leadership communication failures, joking language, observed behavior. Yeon Seok and Kikasum made repeated jokes or hyperbolic remarks in public spaces about the modding scene and the Mega Man franchise being dead, as well as references to a mass exodus during periods of uncertainty. These remarks were made while he held a leadership role and during an already unstable period for the community. Why it matters. Even when intended humorously, such statements can be interpreted literally when coming from a server owner and related parties, such as Manor Kikasum. This contributed to anxiety, speculation, and fear among members, with some interpreting these remarks as confirmation that the server or projects were collapsing, leading to disengagement or departure. Maybe we should stop hosting mods. Ha 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 ha. Delayed public clarifications. Observed behavior. During the initial phase of the exodus and surrounding confusion, Yeon Seok delayed issuing a clear public explanation or clarification regarding what was happening behind the scenes, opting to wait until matters were more concluded before addressing them. Why it matters. In the absence of timely clarifications from leadership, rumors and assumptions filled the gap. This lack of context increased uncertainty allowed misinformation to spread and placed additional strain on the staff members and community members. Vague statements leading to premature conclusions. Observed behavior. Public or semi-public references to animation work on the Over One project were made without sufficient clarification, which led to some team members to believe that Barreto was being replaced or excluded from work he had previously been involved in. Why it matters. Ambiguous communication regarding collaborative projects can easily be interpreted as unilateral decision making. This undermined confidence among a few collaborators and contributed to interpersonal tension that existed prior to that could have been avoided with clearer, more explicit messaging. Soft-handed approach towards moderation-related actions and rash decision making without prior consultation. Observed behavior across a decent period of time, especially around the time Barreto was a moderator within Derivative Works, there were various incidents that required certain action from the staff in regards to the server. However, due to certain inconsistencies or special circumstances and rules-specific incidents, Yeonseok would sometimes adopt postures that the rest or most of the staff team would not agree to, or would push forward certain decisions without any prior consultations toward the rest of the staff. Why it matters. This behavior hurt the trust that some staff members had toward Yeonseok as a person and as management of the server, while also undermining the importance of the staff's opinion on many topics, making them feel disrespected and not needed. What happened that you need to nuke the whole chat? Things. So please discuss with other mods and admin here before nuking. There probably at least one mod available. You nuked without knowing the context and what to listen to other mod servers. I saw Satan and Barreto there around that time, and I don't think it was that serious, so I was doing my own stuff. Escalation through informality and emotional spillover. Emotionally loaded remarks in the announcement channels. Observed behavior. Emotionally charged language related towards various topics such as the mass exodus appeared in public announcement or discussion spaces, especially including remarks by Yeonseok and Kikasum that conveyed frustration or hostility towards those leaving. Why it matters. Public and announcement channels are expected to provide clarity and stability in stressful situations. The misuse of said spaces with emotionally loaded statements made the overall leadership appear reactive and unprofessional, especially alienating the uninvolved members through the constant use of everyone pings, reinforcing perceptions of internal dysfunction within the server. Emotional spillovers in public spaces. Observed behavior. At various points, emotionally charged topics and personal distress were brought into casual chat channels, especially by Yeonseok. This includes acknowledgement or references to serious personal issues in spaces that not designed for sensitive discussion, moderation handling, or support, with the topics being commonly brought up without clear boundaries, leading to occasional emotional arguments against certain users who were caught in the crossfire. Do I talk about how I set up an elaborate plan on Friday, but ultimately failed and ended up only? Why it matters. General chat spaces are typically intended to be welcoming, low-pressure environments for casual interaction where plenty of people talk who aren't familiar with each other are free to talk. Introducing heavy or sensitive topics in these areas create discomfort, awkwardness, or emotional strain for uninvolved members who are not prepared to or equipped to engage in such topics. Over time, this contributed to member dissatisfaction, reduced participation, and an overall sense that the space lacked clear norms and emotional boundaries. It also placed an implicit emotional burden on community members. Deflection and misallocation of responsibility. Initial tendency to deflect blame towards others. Observed behavior. At early stages of conflict, Yeonseok commonly attributed a significant portion of blames and actions toward other people, be it staff for not being available for moderation actions at specific times of the day, or more recently, the significant shift of blame towards Kikasum for his remarks and decisions during the mass exodus incident, rather than acknowledging his own role in shaping the environment in which these remarks occurred. Why it matters. Redirecting responsibility without first acknowledging their own influence gives the impression that the leadership is avoiding accountability to the community members, thereby deepening mistrust, even if the criticism is partially valid. As the direct superior within direct works management, it is imperative that the leader bears responsibility for the behavior of staff members. Failure to recognize own role in escalation early on. Observe behavior. UNCI participated in various discussions and jokes related to conflicts with other members, or incidents, especially in the case of the mass exodus, contributing to an overall atmosphere of panic and instability while involving largely unrelated parties. Why it matters. Direct participation in an emotionally charged discourse makes it harder for leadership and staff to later de escalate the situation, blurring the line between moderation and involvement in drama. Eonsiak's lack of awareness towards his own escalation weakened the authority and credibility of the server's management. Emotional dependency and overextension as a leader, overpersonalization of community conflict. Observed behavior. Yeon reacted strongly and personally to the mass departure of members, framing it in ways that reflected emotional distress rather than treating it as an administrative or community management issue. Why it matters. As someone in a position of leadership, such responses are highly personal and can cause others to perceive and now apparently everything I'm doing today is damage control, and the result of my actions and the server will die eventually because of me. Unhealthy attachment to matters related to the server and modding. Observed behavior. ENCI has displayed visible distress in response to various matters regarding his work and community, like a low number of engagement or downloads towards certain projects like the Shu Kurenai mod, especially in comparison to others. Eonsiak and Kakasen's behavior during the Exodus incident and other incidents that impacted the integrity of Derivative Works' presence, adding that threatened to ruin the community he had built was met with extreme worry and obsession towards doing something to fix things. Why it matters. Strong emotional involvement in metrics, reception, and integrity of things he cares about can lead to disproportionate reactions and public expressions of frustration, impacting long-term confidence in the future of the server due to the leadership's overly reactive and biased interests. Okay. Clear boundary and contrast with later conduct. While these behaviors are acknowledged and criticism towards it is justified and encouraged, they do not justify the many actions and lack thereof taken by Barreto, especially after a supposed reconciliation where these issues were privately addressed between the two parties. Barreto's own words during this reconciliation acknowledged Yeon Siak's apology and repeatedly stated that there were no longer any issues between them. As such, the sudden shift in behavior in nearly 2 months of virtually no real contact between, especially considering the arguments used, does not constitute a valid justification. The following excerpts are taken from a private document written by Yeon Siak on the 30th of December 2025, following the incident on Christmas Eve, with only length and inappropriateness as applied. They reflect on his own acknowledgments of misbehavior and were written entirely by him without input or encouragement from any other member of the staff team. As such, we have copy-pasted them into this document in its original format as is to preserve the integrity of the original text. Okay. Consistent public crash outs. I have always struggled drawing the line between public and private spaces, and it took me far too long to learn that I should not bring personal woes into public spaces, which I have done in Derivative Works far too many times. It made people uncomfortable, and it also didn't do me any good for other people to know about my personal problems. I apologize. I have learned the difficult way, especially since the past few months, that I should be drawing a line with private spaces. With that, I stopped bringing private matters into Derivative Works and other public spaces. Overreaction towards minor issues. I can't defend my behavior in the past of having consistent crash outs towards minor issues such as not getting enough traffic on my mods or a few people being dissatisfied with my work. It's not that I couldn't take criticism, but rather the fact that I exaggerate everything that was said to me. Something that is actually just, hey, your mod lacks color, sounded to me like your mod is, don't ever mod again. I still struggle with this, and my best efforts have been to avoid reacting in public so that if I react too strongly, it is at least not in a place I am on display. Where I'm on display. Over negativity, pessimism towards certain topics. Sometimes I am too negative and pessimistic about certain topics which may make other users uncomfortable. For example, saying things like modding is dead or Mega Man is a dead franchise unprompted. While some users take it as a joke, others can react strongly and feel uncomfortable. I understand that it is my responsibility to stay silent if I have nothing constructive to say. I have been trying to improve myself in this aspect, and as it also has no benefit for me to be pessimistic in my day-to-day life. My stubbornness, God complex defensiveness towards certain situations. I am aware that I may come off as defensive at times, especially in situations regarding accusations about me or my work. I apologize for this behavior, and I am working towards accepting that I make mistakes too, and that there is nothing wrong that if I learn from them. It is unacceptable if I do not learn from them. Okay. Context and facades. All dates are presented in the month, day, year format. Time zones and screenshots may vary from UTC. Yeah. This section is focused on showcasing attitudes taken interpersonally between various users and Barreto regarding this current situation. It aims to piece together the many scattered narratives at play and showcasing the various inconsistencies between various incidents. It will mainly analyze recorded instances that we had access to. The Seha incident in August 29, 2025. Prior to the mass exodus, direct communication between Yeonsiak and Barreto was functional and non-hostile. On August 29th, Yeonsiak explicitly raised concerns about perceived avoidance using non-accusatory language, framing his message around personal perception rather than blame. Barreto responded by clearly stating that he held no personal grievances and that there is no unresolved issues. Feedback provided at the time was limited, specific, and accepted without dispute. This exchange established a baseline of good faith communication. Right. Amen. Afternoon. Hope this finds you well. I feel you're semi-avoiding talking things directly in front of me, so I'd like to ask if there's any issues so far related to our relationship within modding that's bothered you or whatnot, apart from me not being able to work within my promised schedule. I've worked under our agreed on terms. There's nothing wrong with you not wanting to work on Seiya, by the way. This is not specifically about that. I had a feeling about it a while ago. Just wishing you told me in DMs first so I can make a more formal announcement regarding the state of the Over One project as a whole. Because to be blunt, as a whole, I've been quite attached from modding, as you see. Again, this message finds no harm. I just wanted to ask how you're feeling about things and discuss them when needed. If there's something I can do to help. Hey, thanks for reaching out. I appreciate you reaching out directly. I want to be clear that I don't have any personal issues with you. I'm not avoiding you. The reason I said what I did in thread was because I wanted to be transparent with everyone at once instead of leaving things vague or open-ended. I can see now that you might have felt a little sudden from your side, and I get your point about DMs first. As for the projects, it's not really about my personal motivation. See, that's not something I feel invested in, so I'd rather not commit to it. Over one, though, is something I still want to support until the end. Beyond that, I'll be stepping back. I also know you've been a bit attached from modding lately, which I understand. We all have shifting priorities. That said, I also don't take your modding scene as dead comments very lightly. I know you often say it half jokingly, but over time it starts to come across as pessimistic, and honestly, it can be discouraging, especially since you're the server owner. It gives weight to your words whether you intend it or not. Other than that, that's pretty much it. No hidden grievances whatsoever, just me wanting to be upfront this time. Completely understandable. Whatever you choose to support or not support, I look forward to your and everyone's presence, regardless, to just be around to see the final product. And hopefully, with that, I also have time to start on Over One again. I do indeed say modding is dead stuff, not even half jokingly, but 100% jokingly. I have been talking about the private server outside DW to try and push hype a bit, because to me personally, that's going to be the do-all end-all project to revive modding, in which I generally want to see modding alive, similar to its early days. If it sounds pessimistic or discouraging, I will not joke about such a topic again. We all worked hard to build this modding scene, and we want to see it thrive. I will continue my part by finishing Seiya where I left off. Might not be a grand mod, but it'll hopefully contribute to the path the lack of mods recently. I'm actually frustrated at the lack of mods as well, but with so many other games being released at this time, I understand people's preferences unfortunately shifting. Your project's coming around the corner. There's your chance to revive modding in ways other than the private server. And with that, best of luck, and I hope to be around to support it. Apologies for my delayed reply. During the mass exodus hysteria in October 22nd, 2024. Dark Hunter DMs. 2024? During this period, Barreto's demeanor changes from a personal point of view to a more broad one. His language is collective and moralized towards not only his decision to leave, but also applying personal complaints as community-wide concerns. In particular, when asked about Yeon's behaviors, he fails to provide any meaningful points, but still decides to treat him as an extension of Kakasen due to the fact that they're real-life friends. Key patterns in his communication include overgeneralization, reframes his individual frustrations as community-wide conclusions, and extension of faults from Kakasen to him. Absence of corrective input. As this conversation is taking place entirely in Dark Hunter's DMs, Yeonsiak still has no voice in this exchange, and he directly states no attempt to address these issues is made. This is a stark contrast in comparison to his behavior answering to Yeonsiak earlier. This is no longer about resolving a misunderstanding between Barreto and Yeonsiak, but rather is a justification to exit and disengage. This matters because once the situation has been framed as being past the point of no return, reconciliation becomes narrowly inconsistent and unlikely even if it later occurs. Barreto states in his words that he has grown tired of the toxicity in that server, specifically the server owner himself and Kakasen. Hey man, you have a moment to talk. What's up? Yo. So I prefer to keep this conversation confidential for now, but at the same time, I think I owe you an explanation why this server is becoming it is now with the recent rash decisions. So I decided to leave the Rotorworks server once we finish the Over 1 project in the coming future. At the same time, I'll be moving my projects to my personal server so I can work on them independently. The main reason that I've grown tired of the toxicity in that server, and I no longer feel comfortable hanging out there. Yeon has noticed this as well because he's still on my server, though he doesn't really chat there. Although he's probably seen a few RXD server members join my server to work or back up their stuff just in case anything happens to DW server. I assure you, this is not a max S's that Yeon claims to be. Last night, Kakasen posted a poll about mass deleting inactive channels and condensing DW chat mod discussion and off topic into a single chat without even consoling to the community. Most people oppose the idea, and it's becoming clear that their decision making are the reason why people are avoiding as of late. Is it toxicity from a particular person or just in general? Only a select can even chat at this point. Specifically, the server owner himself and Kakasen. The only reason I'm still in the server right now is because I want to see the Over 1 project through and put a lot of work into it, but after that I'm moving on. These individuals are all there too, but again, they did not leave DW. I invited them in case we want to collab on another project, but just outside of DW server. Got some specific examples, I'm just trying to understand the context. However, when asked for examples, their responses are largely descriptive and generalized, and no direct quotations or timestamps are provided. Dude just kept going on for days. Dude just kept going for days until it started affecting the atmosphere. People are now afraid of what he is going to do to the server. Barreto explicitly acknowledges that as far as he knows, nobody has directly confronted Yeonsiak about the incident, including himself, establishing escalation without any prior attempt to directly resolve the situation. Dark Hunter repeatedly suggested direct communication or mediation, which Barreto declined, stating, "I don't see why I should explain myself." This indicates he was no longer seeking to resolve anything, but instead was seeking to justify his own behaviors, leading the entire narrative to continue to develop externally rather than being tested through one-on-one dialogue. This one's really small, so you're going to have to bear with me on this one. Sure, give me a moment. The poll was consulting the community. The poll was him consulting the community, though? You could argue it should have been an actual discussion, but most people were just lurkers and probably wouldn't have said anything anyway. A poll's need to get more people's attention. I would appreciate a discussion, at least in the mod chat first. For Eon, the examples are mostly all the way above in the off-topic channel, so it's hard to screenshot everything. I'll try to describe it instead. It's kind of a Honkai Star Rail specific thing, so it might not make full sense, but for the past few days he's been shitting on a gacho character that hasn't even been released yet just because her kit is so bad according to leaks. Normally I'd just ignore it for a day, but he kept going for days to the point where it started getting really toxic. For Kikasum, his behavior is becoming more unhinged, especially when he now has full control of the server and at the same time posts stuff like this. I can't see that stuff. Can you pee me to delete your post for you? I can't see the entire thing. I agree that having an actual discussion in the mod chat in the poll about the poll would have been better, but the fact that they weren't ahead and did it anyway without checking the other moderators says otherwise. Didn't we literally do this with X-Dive data mines, or does it go further? I'm just glancing through off topic and maybe I'm missing something. Just trying to make sure I'm following the pattern properly. Dude just kept going. Okay. Well, like I said, you wouldn't get it. Sorry, I'm not the best to describe this to people who don't play the game. The difference between the data mine discussion and the continuous persistence, dude just kept going for days until it started to affect the atmosphere. Excuse me? People are now afraid of what he's going to do to the server. As for this, not the best look, but it does have the context of trying to contact someone, Slim, and then getting ghosted, which, yeah, it should have kept that beef private until it be resolved or not. It's a behind the scenes frustration made public, which has unfortunately happened before. Has anyone confronted them directly up to this point? They're mostly upset that people are just leaving, ghosting without giving their reasoning directly. If someone has a problem, it should be discussed immediately, not left to fester. As far as I know, no one has directly confronted Eon about this, even me. Also, just to clarify again, nobody is leaving the server because of this. Ghosting is their choice, and I can't control that. But the concern here is more about the ongoing toxicity and repeated behavior rather than people suddenly disappearing. Not accusing you or anything, but wait, I know the second reason people left. I said nothing to anyone. You said you wanted a confidential conversation. My apologies then. You probably should just make your own intention. You probably should just make your intentions clear at this point and the reason behind them, either in DMs or a private group chat. The situation is just going to spiral with the speculation. Maybe you should have a neutral private mediator ready for that convo, which might end up being me. Need someone that can speak to both sides of the issue. With due respect, I don't see why I should explain myself. I am not the cause of the situation, and Eon is already publicly labeling it as a mass exodus. Any private justification would not alter that narrative and would serve no practical purpose. No, but if you got a problem with the leadership, you should tell them so. It's on them to correct that. It's on them to correct after that. I guess I'll just raise the concern to them myself. I will not mention you or this convo. It will be purely me and my observations. Unfortunately, I'm not the confrontational type, so I don't typically address leadership directly about these issues, and I need time to think. This is all going too fast for me to digest. Okay, I'll wait then. I appreciate it, thank you. I know that behind the scenes they have said themselves they want people to tell them directly if there's a problem, and unfortunately that leads to snide remarks in public chat if it appears to them that is not happening. The way I see it, many members feel intimidated or uncomfortable providing direct criticism. It's not that feedback isn't wanted, it's that the environment makes it difficult for people to speak up without fear or backlash or negative consequences. Given the remarks, that is a valid concern. It's a bad visual. Just letting you know that I've reconciled with Yeon already and privately talked things out. But with that said, I'm still not returning. I think this was posted earlier, but I'll read it again anyway. I reconciled with Yeon already in private. We talked things out. Though with that said, I'm still not returning to derivative works anytime soon after everything has happened. I'm still trying to find my own place after everything has happened, and some distance will help me do that. Therefore, I'll just continue my work in my personal server instead. Got here, I understand needing the time apart and heal. Just look forward to all your future projects. If you want to collaborate, help with something, just let me know. And wishing you a happy new year. Okay. This has been a lot. That's 19 pages so far. Just checking the chat really quick. Okay. I'm gonna take a, well, no, just a few second break. I'm gonna keep going. Efforts to reconcile. On October 22nd, 2025 to October 24th, 2025, Nanashi DMs. During this incident, there were multiple attempts on Nanashi's part to get Yeon and Barreto to attempt a conversation. The most repeated request for Nanashi being let Yeon explain himself, which came as a request from Yeon himself to clear things up, understand their grievances, and attempt to reconcile. However, this request was met with unyielding resistance from Barreto until he was exhausted and gave in. This behavior indicates that at no point he was seeking clarification towards any of Yeon's actions nor accepting any apologies, as his mind was already made up on it being too late. He was defensively closing the topic with no room for understanding between parties. That does not make him malicious as of yet, but it does mean decisions made here were emotionally driven, not based on facts or evidence. Reconciliation. On October 24th, 2025, Yeon is finally given the opportunity to directly converse with Barreto, and the tone of the conversation resets dramatically. No accusations were sustained or brought up, no conditions or warning were issued by either party, and there was a lack of "this can't happen again" language. You got my attention, so I'll let you have the floor first. You said you want to have a civil conversation, so I'll hear you out on what you have to say. Good evening. Firstly, I would like to thank you for this opportunity. I am grateful you still find the heart to listen to me. Secondly, I would like to apologize foremost about my actions. I would also like to come clean about my actions outside the server as well, because even if you leave, I'd still consider you my moderator, and you deserve my transparency. First things first, I would like to clarify you are not wrong about me deflecting a number of the blame to Sigyeon. I did absolutely get mad at him more than I should within DW and outside of DW, without considering the fact that even if I wasn't part of his plans to reorganize the server, I played too much into the insensitive jokes and also added to it myself, whether or not I was conscious. So I'd like to apologize. I'd like to interject for a bit if you don't mind. Go on, of course. In this incident, the following things come from both parties. From Yi Ansiak, acknowledges fault, accepts responsibility, explains delay without deflection, expresses willingness for public accountability. Barreto responds with explicit closure language. I can forgive you. I don't hold any anger towards you. I don't think there's anything left unspoken between us. If you can apologize to me like this, why is it so extremely hard for you to come clean in front of the public? Is there a reason you can't? I wanted to, but I wanted to announce everything with its conclusion. That's why I kept saying again and again, this isn't over yet. When it comes to image or anything of the sort, I'm not hiding anything. I simply wanted to come forth with the conclusion as well, so that everyone involved isn't left on a cliff. People started getting pissed due to the vagueness, so I figured waiting out a bit. Is this a satisfactory answer? Yes, now I understand the intent, but from others' perspective earlier, that delay came off as avoidance. While you were willing to conclude, the damage was still ongoing. People were being misled, and I was indirectly being painted as a problem. This is why it was difficult to trust that you were genuinely planning to take responsibility. Also, another thing I'm considering is that I don't want to apologize for something I don't get. That's why I want to talk to you. If I just said, "Hey guys, I'm sorry," blah blah blah, it comes off as insincere. As if I'm just apologizing to wash my hands. Comes in my right ear, goes out the left ear. You heard the saying, right? That's what I was also avoiding for myself. If I also want to apologize, I must know what I'm apologizing for so I can actually fix my mistakes. If I just said sorry, it's like I'm just saying sorry. I'm not being held accountable. Words don't fix things, actions do. I'm sorry about this. The only excuse I have for this is submitting my dissertation. So I couldn't focus on typing yet, you could say, unless of anything else. So now I'm holding myself accountable in front of you before I do it in front of them. Is there anything you'd like to add before I say some other things? I get that. Empty apologies don't mean much if there's no understanding behind them. But at the same time, you shouldn't take me spelling everything out for you to reflect on what happened. You were there for most of it. You saw how people reacted. That should have been a cue to look inward. I'm willing to clarify things, not just because I'm explaining it, but because I care about resolving this properly. I know. I'm not going to defend myself or anything for that. That's 100% on me that I let people get hysteric first, especially for the days before. I even played into myself. Hence, that's how I started this conversation with you. I apologize heavily for that. I quite literally played into the problem as well as feeding into the mass exodus panic. Nothing I need to add right now. I'm focused on hearing your side and understanding your accountability. On second thought, I do. From my side, accountability involves telling you everything I did with and within and outside the server. Within the server, I caused mass panic by feeding into the concept of mass exodus, and my initial intention is to follow it with an apology in conclusion to the issue, as well as how we'll handle things forwards. Personally, I would have averted any changes to the server, if any, but if there aren't any changes, so I simply deleted any fear-mongering announcements first. Also, go ahead. While I do appreciate your honesty and the accountability you're showing here, I hope that you can work reconciling with Kikasum as well. About that, don't worry, I never delete him anywhere, and his contact is still Big Brother on my phone. Plus, I feel really bad now that I put so much blame on him when it was also my fault. I'll take him out somewhere eventually. Which from that, I'll also be honest with you, while the idea of Max Estes wasn't intentionally mine, I basically was the one who kept feeding into it for Sigyeon to the point he's had multiple crash outs outside the server. But it didn't take long for me after didn't take long after that to honestly realize it's very much my fault. The time taken was more of me figuring out how do I revert the mess I've made, or how to do it in a way that's civil and concise without dragging more people into the mess. So it's not just you and DW that I hurt. I also hurt Singyeon a lot. The guy who bailed worked multiple times to check if I had a post. The reason I could still breathe today. As for that, I like to be held accountable. I've been looking for that. I just didn't want to say the wrong things, which is why I want to talk to you first, because I felt even if it was indirect or whatnot, the mass exercise was basically tagging you indirectly to some degree. And the least I want to do is attack a friend or quite literally for no reason at all. It's not like you did anything wrong. Yes, sorry it was something like that. Says yes, please do. It takes a lot of humility. I can see you're generally reflecting on that. I know this stuff was posted already in the document earlier, but what matters now is how you move forward from here. I genuinely hope you make sure this cycle doesn't repeat and taking steps to rebuild trust with the people community through rebuilding trust with the people in the community through actions, not just words. And just so you know, I don't hold any anger towards you. I don't hate you. I never wish the death of you either. But I do hope you follow through what you said here today. And that's how I started this convo, because actions mean more than words. I'm not willing to give the community I built an apology where I understood nothing. The only person wishing death is myself. How do I kill the me that keeps making mistakes? But that's not right. That means I'm running away from my mistakes. I have people worried about me and worried about DW. And I have to glue that in a way that we can end on a proper happy note. You don't need to kill that part of you, just learn from it. The fact you're taking responsibility and thinking about how to fix things already means you're not running anymore. As a follow up, I just promised you publicly, as I said, I deleted any fear mongering messages analysis first and foremost. If necessary, I could also delete messages backtracking to a certain amount, however much Me6 allows in a set time. But I'm debating if that's the proper cause of action, because it would also look like I'm just washing my hands. I feel like it would not be necessary at this point. Once you come clean with your announcement after this talk, I can assure you people will understand. If it makes you feel better, I will even explain my side and her to server as well, that you genuinely mean this, so people will not just take it as just talk. I could also come to your server again if you don't mind. I still want to talk with everyone else too. Yes, I don't mind. I've already unbanned you. Thank you so much for that. I'll explain there if you need me to, but if you feel it's unnecessary, I will simply make an announcement on DW, paying in all, of course. because I held Sion to that same standard. I think there's no need for that. But if you really do feel like you want to talk to everyone else, I think you kind of owe this person an apology as well. He could really use it right now. I'm willing to vouch for you too. Of course, perhaps in his DMs though. I don't want to clog your server with sad stuff. Though that will be on my notes first thing tonight. If not, then tomorrow morning. Yes, that is acceptable enough. I'll let him know in advance so he doesn't ignore you. If you want the receipts, I'll provide those too, but that is, of course, only if he finds that acceptable to be shared. You're shared most to me already, so I don't think I need any more. I didn't say anything to directly, though, other than why he stopped talking, I think. Other than asking why he stopped talking, I think. That said, I don't think I'll be returning to Riverworks anytime soon. I'm still trying to find my own peace after everything that's happened, and some distance will help me do that. In DMs, that is. But he knows what happened in the server league, so at least talk to him that you're sorry about all this the same way as you did to me. I see. I thought he left before everything blew up, so I'm ready to share anything he needs after he leaves. Use as well. About this, I fully understand, and I heard from Nanashi that you were planning on to leave over after over one was as well. For that though, I'd like to apologize for sneaking on your receipts. If anything, would you come back at some point though? I don't blame Nanashi for what he did. He knows you far more than I do, so it's understandable why he did it. And I never wanted to lie to Nanashi anyway. That is why I revealed all my cards to him, even if he had to sneak receipts behind my back. Same to you. To clarify, I have nothing to hide against you, but if you think there is, feel free to just ask me about it, because I might have missed something solely from forgetting. After this conversation, probably. Just that I need more time to be alone for now. So feel free to ask. I appreciate it and trust your honesty. Therefore, I don't think there's anything left unspoken between us. That's understandable. I actually just asked first, just now, for now, in case you wanted to see my public apology, but I think I'll just have it forward to you. I'm quite open to being fully transparent, so I'd like to ask if you're okay with me name dropping your server, as in I was accusing it in the chronology. I plan to provide one. If you feel like doing so, I don't mind. It should give people a breath of fresh air again. I appreciate that, although I think seeing it isn't necessary right now. What matters is I've heard you here. Thank you, but I don't mind, because integrity is part of being accountable, and that's what I promised to be. I wanted this to be said way earlier, but I'm glad we waited out, because let's just say I was having a crash on like 3 different servers. If I say anything mean about you or anyone at the time, I apologize, whether you see that or not. Whether or not you see that. I've seen it already, but like I said, I don't hold any grudges at all, so rest assured. I don't hold any grudges either, just a lot of temporal frustration at myself and the situation at the time, which remind me, I need to work on that a lot. I have been very lenient with my medicine cycle. Now, one last favor. Can I join your hub and say hi? Sure. Sure. Thank you so much for everything today. I'll have this pep talk with this person tomorrow, I think. Instead, I think, since I have to catch up on the seminar. I'll come back a bit later to forward the announcement I said, unless there's anything else. If you can try and get the pep talk done with this person as well, it would be very much appreciated as well. Like I said, dude's on edge lately. Of course, just that it'll be tomorrow when I can collect my thoughts and mostly finish my homework with the seminar replay. Alright, I look forward to it then. Here, as promised, this is tomorrow. Hey, so I talked things out with this person this morning, though I sent the message last night. I came clean about things, especially such as basically orchestrating hate parades against the guy, which I feel is one of the worser offense for his case. Which again, I still feel guilty of anything mean I've said to you or said to either of you. 100% has been, whether or not I'm conscious of it. So again, I apologize sincerely. This person says he has a lot of things to say over the past 2 years, the buildup that led DW to this point, but he says he needs to find the word for it first. I'm not sure if this message was necessary to send, but I'm just updating where the situation is right now, so we're all on the same page. Yeah, he told me about it as well. Guess you'll just have to wait and hear what he has to say later. It's like that right now. He also told me to take a break because he thinks I need that. Maybe I really do. I did want to solve this as soon as possible though, but all things take time, and I totally get that. Hopefully you're fine with the gap and me catching my breath for a bit. Yeah, everything's fine on my end. So we're all on the same. Alright, and on October 26th. Oh, I'm so sorry for the frequent DMs as of recent, but Sion asked me to ask you first if it'd be okay for him to message you and this person since he didn't want to send something serious unprompted. Hey, yeah, sure, I don't mind. And this is Eon's last message to Barreto on December 24th, 2025. Hello, sorry for barging in again. Hope you're doing well. Is there something the matter to make you ban me again? This message was not sent because Eon was banned. Was blocked on Discord. Most importantly, if this was a true reconciliation, then the conflict is considered resolved and future actions should align with that closure and should escalate only based on future actions. If this was not a true reconciliation, then the word reconciliation was used strategically, not sincerely. Seemingly, both parties have resolved their issues with each other, and Yanciak is allowed back into Barreto's personal server. It cannot be claimed later that there is unresolved harm without contradicting this moment, unless new incidents were to occur. The following 2 months have had seemingly no direct events or interactions between the two, as indicated by the timestamps in the above images. August 29, 2025. Open communication, good faith. Attempts to find out dissatisfaction were met with denial and no clarification. I said August, right? October 22nd, 2025. Emotional escalation and moral farming and exit justification after a particular incident. October 24th, 2025. Abrupt de-escalation and reset in perspective. Seemingly positive final outcome and acceptance of Yeon's apologies and explanations. October 27th, 2025 and onwards, silence. December 24th, 2025. Sudden extreme escalation with blocks and bans. You cannot simultaneously maintain that things were irreparably bad on October 22nd, we reconciled on October 24th, nothing happened afterwards, therefore extreme action on December 24th was justified by earlier events. One or more of these statements must be false, incomplete, or retroactively reinterpreted, of which is almost certain that the reconciliation happening is the problem. Ultimately, no warnings, ultimatums, or dissatisfactions were communicated. Christmas Eve moving on incident. December 24th, 2025. Without any prior notice, Barreto blocks Yeon across all accounts on all platforms to share Discord, Twitter, Facebook, Honkai Star Rail. Bans from his personal server and refuses to interact directly in any way, leaving no possible avenue of direct communication. At this point, Yeon is extremely confused both logically and emotionally and attempts several times to try and resolve things, of which he does not even understand what the issue is. This is the demons that we were just reading. Facts that are indisputable based on logs. Barreto blocked Yeonsiak across all platforms. This incident occurred roughly 2 months after the explicit reconciliation on October 24, 2025. There were no new incidents, arguments, or confrontations made between the two in this 2-month period. Barreto refused direct communication, forcing all messaging to be routed through third parties. Communication inevitably degraded into a game of telephone, increasing the risk of information being distorted, noticeable in moments like confusions regarding the work being done in the Cabal and the Paceman. This alone already placed the burden of explanation on the initiator of the rupture, Barreto, not the Black Party. So this is a lot to get through. This is a lot to get through. And we're gonna take like a minute break. Oops. If anybody is listening in, just get yourself something to drink really quick and we'll continue on. Hang on. Okay. Alright. Break time's over. It's very important. I hope you all have been. Hope you all are keeping up with all this. Because we're not. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. Save your judgments until after the document is over. Alright? So, let's continue. Games of Telephone on December 24th, 2025 to December 26th, 2025. Message to an unnamed third party. Reframing without engagement. Please tell Yeon that this decision isn't about bad blood. I just personally don't find it fun to associate, or work with him anymore, which is why I feel it's best for me to move on, even though we've already reconciled before. Whether he believes that or not is up to him. If he has an issue with me managing the Twitter page, I'll simply rebrand it to something that doesn't reference RXD community. The only reason he's still in the Cabal group chat is that he still needs access to the Over One project with the other members. Regarding Over One's animations, if you still need help, I'm willing to assist. As I said, I would, but from here on, I will be coordinating through this person and this person. Ergo, I'll pass the animation files to them. Key points. Post hoc emotional justification. The reason given is purely subjective, not fun anymore. No specific behaviors, incidents, or boundaries are cited. This is not an explanation of any conflict, it's a preference to withdraw. Strategic ambiguity. Whether he believes that or not is up to him. Preemptively dismisses Yeon's interpretive agency. Avoids clarification while addressing finality. Soft denial plus hard control. Claims there is no bad blood between them. Simultaneously, blocks direct contact, reroutes project coordination away from Yeonseok, retains all control over shared assets and socials. This combination is internally inconsistent. Clean separation is claimed, but structural leverage is retained. Sorry. Clean separation is claimed, but structural leverage is retained. Conversation with Horn, hardening the narrative. December 24th, 2025. In this conversation, despite happening on the same day and roughly the same time, the tone shifts from withdrawal to moral indictment. Sorry this is a bit out of blue. I know I've never really been involved in all of this, and we never really talked that often, but I'm hearing things, so I'm just curious on why you suddenly chose to cut off Yeon now by blocking and kicking him. It's been 2 to 3 months after everything with the DW server went down, and it was, to my knowledge, mostly resolved eventually, so it's a bit sudden to me, but I'm mostly out of the loop, so I don't have the full picture. I'm not asking you to unblock him and return, even if I would prefer everything to be fully resolved, nor am I looking to create problems with you myself. I don't want to make anything worse for anybody involved. I just want your honest answer. Thanks. Hey, just as I told Slim earlier, the decision isn't about bad blood. I personally don't find it enjoyable to associate or work with Eon anymore, which is why I feel it's best to move on, even though we had reconciled before. I'm aware this may feel sudden, but it's genuinely how I feel right now. Whether he believes that or not is up to him. I also don't fully understand why he thinks I'm cutting him off from his friends, since his friends are also in the RXD derivative server. That perspective feels a bit entitled to me. Thanks. Also, somewhat related to that, I'd like to ask, did you still plan on making the animations for Over One? I understand if you didn't give that, Gion was the one in charge of that. I still plan on doing so. I was not aware that he wants to do it himself. No, I was just curious about it. Regarding animations, I will be coordinating through this person by passing the animation asset bundle files to them. Alright. Sorry to disturb again. This happened on the same day. This happened on the same day, 8 hours later. Sorry to disturb again. I didn't want to get involved, but he's a hard person to argue with. Since you wish to move on and be unaffiliated with DW, would you be willing to relinquish its socials to us? the Twitter and YouTube. I understand the DW YouTube is your personal account, so he asked for a removal of the content rather than a transfer of ownership. Trust me, I hate all this too, but I don't know how else to keep everything from blowing up again. I'll try not to bother you again if I can help it. Alright, no worries. I get that you're tired of all this, and I believe you when you say you don't want things to blow up again. The reason he's hard to argue with isn't because people are unreasonable, but because for a long time, all of us, myself included, enabled him too much, whether intentionally or not. The people indulge his the more people indulge his narrative victim card behavior, the more he believes he can get away with it, get away with escalating things, even if it means dragging everyone else down to the pit with him. That's also why I'm stepping away and drawing a hard line now. As for the socials, no, I will not be relinquishing them, and I won't be removing content from my personal accounts. I created and ran those spaces, and I made those videos myself. The only exception is Shu's trailer, which I'm fine with separately out of respect for the people involved. Everything else stays. If Eon has an issue with me running pages that still carry the DW name, like I already told this person, I'll simply rebrand the socials entirely so that they no longer affiliate with DW going forward. Beyond that, content removal is not up for debate. Once again, I'm not doing this to escalate anything, and I'm not interested in reopening old arguments. I just want to move on cleanly and independently. I hope you can respect that. Also, you're not bothering me at all. I enjoy talking with you. The critical escalation point. The reason he's hard to argue with isn't because people are unreasonable, but because all of us enabled him too much, indulging his narrative in victim card behavior. This is important because it retroactively reframes the entire past sequence of events, especially after the reconciliation, and introduces character level accusations, ego, manipulation, self victimization, escalation tendencies, when ultimately none of these are tied to new events. This exchange indicates retrospective moral reclassification, not a reaction to fresh behavior, as Yanciak and Moretto had not interacted in months. Yep, from the reconciliation section of this document. Conversation with Nanashi. Hey man, is everything alright between you and Yeon? Dude? Hello? Dude, was it really necessary to just block Yeon out of everything? I know you want to move on from DW and Cabal, but is this really the right call? If you won't give me a valid reason, then why did you insist on talking to him before? I'll talk to you. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's. I'll talk to you later. Talking to Horn right now. Am I not worth to talk to about this? You guys were doing fine after the whole incident being resolved, so why now? I'll voice call you later about it later. I'm having dinner. Alright, still there? Yep. And they had a voice call, which we don't really know the context of unless it is in this document later. And this was posted in this screenshot here was posted earlier. It's a bit small here, so I'm out of time for 2 weeks, so I won't be getting back to the art videos by then, but I'm taking it slow. That's okay. Who is doing the 3D animations? Okay. That's an issue. I should probably bring that up. Should probably do you have someone in mind you're thinking of? And as far as I know, that because I don't believe anything started on that end yet. If I relay what you say, the best I can do, what you wish with this. What the best I can do, what you wish with this. And again, this is pretty small, so I can't really see it, but I believe it's stuff. I believe it's stuff that's already posted in the. Actually, no, this is new. I can't see all of it, but I've I'll try to read out the more important bits. It's a misuse of privilege that was supposed to be earned. Said person is not even in derivative work, so I see absolutely zero reason to not be doing this. I initially did not wish to replace him for the project, but after their actions, there is a 99% chance the ending will result in me replacing him. His recent actions are nothing short of selfish, insensitive, and inconsiderate. Why 99%? Because I know there's only a 1% chance that there's a good ending. I don't get cut off from literally everything, plus retain DW's social media. DW's social media and the future DW hosting his mods. I have had absolutely enough. I have been stepped on. I have been toyed with. I have been showered with fake promises and lies. My relationship with people has been used as collateral, threatening to kick me out of Cabal and in turn all big projects in the future, including those by other people. I don't know how to tell you the amount of ego you need to have to deny the owner of DW keys to their own project while not wanting to be in DW after months of dangling keys in front of a smooth reconciliation. When it comes to public image, maybe everyone does, but not when it comes to the ending of it all. Semi-harsh views. Yes, it's very difficult, especially the fact that I was targeted not once but twice personally. I don't feel it's fair to keep letting him get away with personal attacks like this. TLDR, one of our ex-monitors went rogue and hates me so much for no reason, made me go over 2 months of rebuilding DW according to his request, and now he decided to cut me off from multiple friend groups and delete me from everything, including Honkai Star Rail. Alright, thank you for the help. Merry Christmas. Okay, so that was very important. Did you clear up the misunderstandings about the animation thing yet? Or did you DM individually to the rest about it? You there? I hope you got what you wanted. This is the next day. Hey, hey, I was asleep since around 10 p.m. last night. Christmas was physically exhausting for me, so I wasn't around by earlier. To be clear, I never said I was going to clear up misunderstandings in the group chat. What I said during the call consistently that I'm not engaging it directly anymore. Right. So, like I mentioned earlier, there was a voice call, and obviously there are no screenshots, and as far as I know, there are no recordings of it. So, what we can, all we can do is just gather what we. Well, I'll keep the comments. I'll keep the comments down for now. I'll keep reading. This conversation is significant as it took place almost entirely in voice chat, meaning there are no screenshots. As seen in the conversation below between Nanashi and Eonsiak, it can be concluded that the voice call ended on good terms and Eonsiak's friend request was purposefully ignored so that he can find the time and space to properly talk. He said he purposely ignored the friend request so that he could find the time and space to talk to you again. So again, I asked just be patient. He didn't say no, and he didn't reject you. This is later contradicted when Barreto claims I never said I was going to clear up misunderstandings in the group chat. What I said during the call consistently is that I'm not engaged directly anymore. As this conversation took place entirely via voice and was unrecorded, it is impossible to determine whether this was a misunderstanding or whether this is a complete backpedal on what was said during the conversation. And here's the full thing. Here's Barreto's last message. To be clear, I never said I was going to clear up misunderstandings in the group chat. What I said during the call consistently is that I'm not engaging directly anymore. The only thing I'm willing to do is work coordinating through this person and this person, and only when there is something concrete to share in the group chat. That boundary hasn't changed, and since he's going this far to ignore it, I guess even that is no longer necessary. I also need to be upfront. Sending me that pastebin and presenting it this way feels like manipulation rather than anything I'm willing to engage with. I'm not responsible for managing Yeon's emotions or decisions, and I'm not going to be pushed into breaking my boundaries because of it. From here on, I need you to stop acting as the go-between on his behalf. I have already made my position clear, and I want to move on. You're free to believe whatever you want at this point, but just keep in mind that things aren't as simple as clear-cut as they may appear. If this doesn't make it crystal clear that I don't want to interact with him anymore outside of indirect business, then I'm afraid I can't help you. Happy New Year. The core issue, contradiction. Barreto is simultaneously asserting, we reconciled, there's no bad blood, I don't want to reopen old arguments. He has a long-standing pattern of manipulation and escalation, therefore I am drawing a hard line now. All of the above cannot be true at the same time without one of the following. The reconciliation was insincere or provisional. New triggering behavior occurred unknown to anybody, including Yeon Siak, and if occurred, was not communicated to him. A change in internal narrative rather than external facts. From an analytical standpoint, number 5 is justified only if number 4 was unresolved at the time of reconciliation, which directly contradicts the conversation that resulted in their reconciliation. This matters because from Yeon Siak and Ko's perspective, everything was going fine. Despite the previous argument, things were still left on a positive note, with Yeon Siak acknowledging everything he did wrong and accepting responsibility, with Barreto confirming multiple times that they were forgiven and no bad blood existed between them. Ultimately, his actions at this date ends up being an unnecessary escalation of a conflict that had already subsided, which goes against what he himself had complained about, Yeon escalating conflicts. At the same time, his refusal to speak directly while allowing third parties to relay messages, shaping the narrative through them, correcting Yeon-siak's framing indirectly, creates information asymmetry, information asymmetry, loss of nuance, plausible deniability. I never said that directly. This is not a neutral standpoint to be in. It is controlled disengagement that indirectly involves people who aren't part of the situation. Barreto's animosity towards Yeon Siak to be active participants, just to convey poorly communicated messages across. Barreto claims, I want to move on cleanly and independently, but also keeps DW branded socials until forced to rebrand. Even then, retains the following and reach that was a result of DW's joint efforts, refuses to relinquish or remove content, with the notable exception of the character Ma Yeon-siak was most directly connected to, Shu. Continues involvement in the Over-One project that through intermediaries rather than directly, while also giving the idea that he'd been kicked out of the Cabal group chat, if not for Overone still being unfinished. It retains narrative authority over what happened. This is not a clear exit. It is a selective exit that preserves influence, followers reach, without accountability. Regardless of the fact that it was rebranded, it still retains everything it built up under the name of Derivative Works, while forcing Yeon Siak and Co. to go through the burden of building everything back up again. What this incident does not showcase, reaction to a new harm, setting boundaries after a recent violation, continuation of unresolved conflict that was explicitly resolved by Barreto. What the Christmas Eve incident is, a unilateral disengagement, justified retroactively through character assassination, enforced through blocking and cutting off communication rather than through dialogue, stabilized internally by indirect communication and narrative control. From an analytical perspective, Yeon-siak's belief that the block was sudden and unexplained is reasonable and supported by the evidence. Barreto's justification relies on the reinterpretation of old events, not new facts. The refusal to communicate directly creates the very escalation he claims to be avoiding. The no bad blood claim is contradicted by language depicting Yeon Siak as manipulative, ego-driven, and enabled. This does not mean Barreto is lying about his feelings. Instead, it means his feelings replaced facts and then were treated as sufficient grounds for severe action, while trying to pretend it wasn't the case, especially after claiming things were behind them in their earlier interaction. Okay. Ow. Ow. Sorry. Sorry about that. Anyway. the Roxas poaching incident on December 30th through January 2nd, 2026. Roxas's DMs. This incident is highly significant as it comes from a previously uninformed neutral third party, occurs after reconciliation, and after Barretto's claimed clean move on. It shows active outreach paired with negative framing of DW leadership. It is not a heated moment. Instead, it is a calm, deliberate, and strategic. Yo, I just added you. I added you just to keep in touch if you don't mind. Oh, wow. I didn't know a lot of people liked me. For sure, go ahead. As in, I thought people didn't bother to keep in touch. My bad. I see. Oh, that's fine. But anyway, in case you haven't realized yet, this page is getting a rework since it's no longer affiliated with Derivative Works anymore. Initial contact framing, neutral to instrumental. I added you just to keep in touch if you don't mind. On the face of it, this is harmless. However, what follows immediately recontextualizes the contact. And this is the new title of the page that we saw earlier. It won't be a new community server, just under a new label is all. I see. I don't mind it personally. I got a question to ask you as well, and I want you to be honest if you don't mind. It has no right or wrong either way. Do you see a future in Derivative Works, and where do you see yourself in the next few years to come? It's fine if you can't answer it right away, but I want to hear your thoughts. I think DW can thrive if we change how things work, and I'll probably be there for the next few years. I see. So you think the server will be able to function? Is able to function so long as there's changes within the system, correct? Well, for some aspects, yes. I see. In that case, I'll give you my honest response to your answer. Japanese, if you don't mind. The first substantive topic is rebranding away from DW. This affiliation no longer about friendship or a casual check-in. This indicates the contact is purpose-driven, not social. Do you see a future in derivatives, and where do you see yourself? This question is critical. It is not neutral. It is framed as an open-ended question, but it's actually diagnostic. Measures loyalty to derivative works, gauges dissatisfaction, assesses recruitability. This is a classic soft poaching probe. No invitation yet. First, assess psychological distance from the Yeon group. The asterisk disclaimer, no right or wrong, is a social pressure softener, not neutrality. After Roxas gives a moderately positive reform-oriented answer, Burrell immediately reframes it. So you think the server is able to function so long as there's changes within the system, correct? This approach narrows down the response, pushes it towards systemic failure. Sorry, let me try that again. Pushes it towards systemic failure unless leadership changes. This is leading clarification, not genuine curiosity. The Japanese pet message is the pivot point. I don't have my translator tool with me, so on this computer, so I can't really tell you anything. But we're gonna get the summary down here. Content summary. The system could change in theory. The hierarchy prevents real change. Leadership, Yeon Ko, historically avoids accountability. Ironic given that Barretto didn't hold himself accountable for a single thing. Meaningful change is unlikely without sustained effort. Specific key points to take note of during the conversation. Speculative motive attribution. Speculative motive attribution presented as experiential fact. No concrete examples provided. Unchallenged authority framing from past experience. Dive record, dive remix. Something I've been working on the past few days. Preferably that you do not share this outside, by the way. Alright, personally I like the second one more. There's meaning behind it too. For me, DW represents the last bastion of RCO martyrs. So I think that through some reforms and changes, we can do it. Though I will admit, my word is not accurate as I am an outsider to what happens in the Cabal. Oh, you didn't know. Bro, I'm no longer affiliated with Derivative Works anymore, like officially and entirely. Even the Cabal as well, I know. However, I'm still collaborating with all these people in my server. If you want, I could hook you in as well if you want to lurk around. No, it's alright. You see yourself as an outsider? How come? As in the Cabal. Oh, never mind. So I pretty much am left in the dark of what happens behind the scenes of major projects that I am not involved in. Because I didn't want you to get involved. I know Yeon probably yapped about it in DW already, but then again, I'm just gonna say that things aren't always black and white. There's reasons why I left in the first place. Yeah, I understand that. And certainly it's not because of a Hoyo character. Uh, um, yeah, that's not really important. When the time is right, I'll tell you from my perspective someday. Alright, thanks. I'm serious about my invitation, by the way. If you still have any motivations or interests for dive mining, you're always welcome to hop in. Everyone's here as well. Like, I'm not telling you to move in, but rather in case if you want to collab with me again. I am aware. I'll think about it for the time being since I have my own projects to deal with. Alright, take all the time you need then. Thanks for the talk. I have to get back to work now. Unless you have anything else to say. Thanks, good luck with your projects. The language used positions Barreto. The language used positions Sorry, I'm not really the best at this, but I'm doing my best. The language used positions Barreto. The language used positions Barreto as an insider with privileged truth, protecting the other party from naivete, because I didn't want you to get involved. This is preemptively shaping how future information will be interpreted by the reader. Preferably that you do not share this outside, by the way. There is a meaning to it behind it, too. This does two things. Creates in-group trust, you're being let in, establishes asymmetric information control. At this point, the relationship subtly the relationship subtly shifts from peer to peer to someone revealing things to the other. Explicit separation and selective association. I'm no longer affiliated with Derivative Works anymore. However, I'm still collaborating with these people in my server. It is rhetorically important because DW is framed as structureless and abandoned. His server is framed as where the real modders work and people are. Names are dropped deliberately, proof of social control, and most of whom are active modders. Even without a direct leave DW request, the implication is clear. The main location for dive mining has changed. He also makes a plausible deniability invitation. I'm not telling you to move in, just in case if you want to collab with me again. This is a classic deniable poaching. Invitation without pressure. Choice framed as entirely the other person's, but only one path is portrayed as protective and alive. In effect, most didn't leave, but have indeed stopped talking there. Hardly different in practice. This is effectively structural disengagement, and given that he is rebranding his server, he is also creating a second Derivative Works. This behavior also becomes heavily contradictory with his earlier claims. Not about bad blood. His behavior. Repeated negative framing of Yeonseok's leadership, especially after supposed reconciliation, not cutting off her friends, actively recentering collaboration elsewhere, nudging people away from DW and from Yeonseok as a result, not escalating, reframes history but acts not to bring up anything talked about. Moving on independently, continues shaping DW perception through its members, which is not independent. Did not leave because of Cyrene hate. Directly contradicts what was said in a direct conversation with Darkheart when asked about problematic behaviors that caused him to quit. Okay, so that part was important. For Yeon, the examples are mostly, something we've read earlier. He keeps going on about probably adjusting more food, but he kept going on for days to the point where it started getting really toxic. It won't just be a new Katsuri, just under a new label is all. Directly contradicted by the screenshot obtained on December 28th, 2025, before this conversation, that shows a portion of Barreto's server with visible RXD modding channels as well as the pink house in the server name, denoting that this to be a community server rather than a private one. Future RXD mod guilds? More mods, I suppose. Help. These are my guesses, but these are just my guesses, but we don't really know too much. This incident alone demonstrates intentional narrative steering away from derivative works, selective trust building with respected modders, recruitment adjacent behavior, even without explicit join me statements. Post-reconciliation undermining, not disengagement. Importantly, this does not require malicious intent to be problematic. Even if Barreto genuinely believes his framing, the effect is gradually hollowing out derivative work's social core while preserving plausible deniability, which gives merit to Yeon Seok's earlier concerns and desire to talk things out, which were disregarded entirely by Barreto. Roxas was a third party with little connection to any side, and because of not having any prior stake, not being primed with grievance, perceiving the approach as inappropriate, the constant refusal to be given a say on the matter. They have finally decided to share this information as they feel strongly against the actions being taken by Barreto. Effectively, this whole situation meets the functional definition of poaching, even if not explicit. It contradicts the clean break narrative that they claimed, explains why DW activity dropped without formal departures, and reinforces that the actions taken during Christmas Eve were not about peace, but control of narrative and associations. But because it is only a single case, it cannot be said that every single person who moved away from DW was poached in a similar manner, especially given the dates. But the fact that the first documented evidence of it is so formulaic and manipulative is a terrible sign. Roxas incident update. January 1st, 2026. His DMs. Roxas's DMs. Only a couple of days later, Barreto again reaches out to Roxas concerning the removal of the Blade Armor X mod, a mod that Roxas led and helped develop from the derivative work server, which was done in response to him removing the shared Kurenai mod from the socials and claiming not to want to be associated with derivative works any longer. A timeline of this removal is provided in the chronology section, which showcases that the removal of Barreto's mods, as well as users making a decision to disassociate with them, was done as a response to the incident aforementioned. Okay. Roxas. So I heard that the Blade Armor thread got deleted by Yeon, including every mod that I have there as well. Basically, this means that Blade Armor X is currently no longer under derivative works. So I have to promote it under our new name going forward. Yeon basically disowned every character mod there that were hosted by me. I'll check. Alright. You still got the director credit on Nexus mods, don't worry. You are the lead after all. No, that's good. Yep, and that's all the... That's the WIP thread, which wasn't deleted, but that wasn't the main release thread anyway. The release thread got deleted. So yeah, Blade Armor X mod will be promoted under Dive Record going forward, since it's currently an orphan now. Yeon didn't delete those, by the way. We've already looked at these before, but this isn't Yeon. Is that okay with you? Okay, it was Horn that deleted them. Thank you for showing me as well. Have you considered my invitation yet, by the way? Still thinking, lots of real life events. Alright, take your time. Just letting you know you'll always have a place here as well as in Herta Space Station. Personally, I think that Blade should still be a DW thing since we did make it in DW and Yeon didn't end up deleting it. That's the problem. If Yeon deletes it, it's a way of showing that he disowns it. He won't relax. It wasn't him who even did it. No, you don't get it. Yeon 100% burned the bridge with me already. Even Nanashi and Horn blocked me as well. I got banned in RXD community as well. Personally, I just don't want to risk anything between the both of you. Where'd you get this, by the way? Let's just leave it as is. I don't want to add more fuel to fire. I asked. Noticed Prometheus was gone, so I went for the bite. Prometheus, model, and Blade are all gone, but at least the Nexus page is still there. Other than that, I've been focusing on real life ever since I turned 40, so nothing much on mods. Responding to this, personally, I just don't want to risk anything between both of you. You don't get it. Alright, I'll say it in English and Japanese. No, just English, I can understand. The damage has already been done. A lot has happened behind the scenes while you were kept in the dark. Yeon and his entire mod team already decided they don't want to host my mods there anymore. That's why everything was deleted, and why I now have to promote and continue my work under a new name that includes Model A, Prometheus, and Blade Armor X. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a neutral situation. It was a deliberate action. It was a deliberate action, and that action itself was already an act of disrespect. That action itself was already an act of disrespect. I'm not trying to add fuel to anything, but I also don't want this framed as something that can still be avoided or stay neutral on. What happened already happened. I hope you understand now. I do, but on my hand, I don't want to hurt you or you. You don't have to do anything. I just want you to understand the current situation as is. That's all. Well, I'm trying to. Well, that's all I wanted, honestly. You don't need to take sides or anything. I just wanted to have the full picture. We can leave it there. But anyway, thanks for listening. I'll make sure Blade Armor is in good hands under the new name as well. This exchange occurs from incomplete information from Barreto's part, yet still demonstrates repeated attempts to shape Rox's perception, extract alignment, and reframe the events as settled and irreversible on Yeon and Ko's part, despite contrary evidence and pushback to its claims, thinking that Roxas does not understand the situation. The key takeaways. Before even asking how the project leader felt about the decision, Barreto explains that he has to promote it under the new server. After Roxas' input that Blade Armor should remain under DW's ownership, Barreto insists on pushing the mod through the rebranded socials, assuring him that it is in good hands. Barreto claims that Yeon Seok is the one who burned bridges, when in fact he was the one who cut off communication and was the first one to remove mods from the socials. Timestamps of the cutting off of communication and socials are available in the chronology of events. Barreto presents claims as established facts prior to the confirmation of these claims. At this point, the Nexus pages still exist. The deletion was not performed by Yeon Seok, and the other party's intent is yet to be confirmed. Roxas notes on this and pushes back against his claims, but is constantly dismissed with the claim that he does not get it. Attribution of intent. This also mirrors previous behavior of acting on assumed intent rather than verified communication, then presenting said assumption as an unavoidable conclusion. Yeon Seok basically disowned every character mods that were hosted by me. After correction, that's the problem. If Yeon deletes it, it's a way of saying that he disowns it. Yeon 100% burned the bridge with me already. Yeon and his entire mod team already decided they don't want to host my mods there anymore. Even after being shown audit logs disproving his claim that it was Yeon Seok who deleted the mod page, Barreto does not retract his intent attribution, but instead Barreto does not retract his intent attribution, but instead shifts from "this happened" to "this would mean," and uses the mod team, or especially as he deleted the mods, as an extension of Yeon Seok's will and not as an independent person. This showcases and ingrains the fact that his issues have never been led by facts, the previous claims about Bronze regarding the system and hierarchy, but by his feelings towards a specific person. Ingrained narrative. Barreto pushes the narrative that the bridges have been burned and the damage has already been done, with no hope of reconciliation or staying neutral. However, actions taken by Horn came after repeated attempts at communication and attempts to resolve the situation, only to be met with complete unwillingness to cooperate, combined with Barreto's own attempts to cut off connection to the server and inconsistent statements that attacked Yeon Seok's character. At this point, Roxas actively tries to remain neutral and states that he does not want to hurt either side without directly refusing collaboration, but only deferring it. Yet, his neutrality is framed as invalid and naive, effectively treating the situation as completely binary and with middle positions being taken as denial of reality, preemptively closing alternatives. Deniability towards choosing a side. I don't want this framed as something that can still be avoided or stay neutral on. Immediately followed up by, you don't have to do anything. You don't need to take sides or do anything. This is a clear contradiction. It explicitly states that neutrality is rejected, with the situation being framed as irreversible and deliberate harm, while at the same time verbally disclaiming responsibility. This attempts to pressure Roxas into acting, while at the same time trying to avoid personal accountability for consequences, and trying to appease Roxas' desire to not want to take sides. Continuation of poaching attempts. Key phrases. Have you considered my invitation yet? You'll always have a place here as well. I'll make sure Blade Armor X is in good hands under the new name as well. Despite Roxas' earlier deferrals and explanations, I'll think about it, real life events, etc., the invitation is reintroduced multiple times, reframed as protective in regards to the projects, and is coupled with narratives of abandonment and mismanagement by derivative works. It is still indirectly sorry. It is still indirectly applying pressure on him to join, despite Ross's decision to stay neutral, to try to not to provoke. Despite Ross's decision to stay neutral to try not to provoke any sides. You don't get it. I'll say it in English and Japanese. The escalation in tone and visible frustration in the sentence follows Roxas' continued stance of neutrality, requests for caution, and attempts to avoid harming either side, and it's clearly not about the misunderstanding, but rather about Roxas' refusal to align with his narrative. Yeon Siak's unacceptable behaviors. The following exchange occurred on December 24th, 2025, after Burrito's sudden and unexplained withdrawal of communication and took place within a private group conversation. Screenshots of these messages were shared externally. Their authenticity is not disputed and will not be contested. Yeonseok and current staff team acknowledge that the language and conduct displayed in this exchange were unacceptable. This section is included deliberately and transparently, and no attempt is being made to minimize, excuse, or disregard what occurred. This section appears at the end of the document due to the sequence of events and to better contextualize the cause behind such an extreme outburst. The preceding sections were judged to provide necessary context for understanding the circumstances surrounding it, which we recognize cannot be justified, but to more accurately situate it within the broader timeline in reference to this document, as it relates to subsequent actions that will be taken forward within derivative works management. Ow. Damn it. Alright. Okay. I seriously cannot sleep. So I have to come to at least one conclusion. Regardless of the result, I will be moving Cabal here. I do not wish to collaborate further with someone so selfish who values their ego above collaboration and communication, and I do not wish to share them the keys to such big projects. It's a misuse of privilege that was supposed to be earned. Said person is not even in DW, so I see absolutely zero reason to not be doing this. I initially did not want to replace him for the project, but after their actions, there is a 99% chance the ending will result in me replacing him. His recent actions are nothing short of selfish, insensitive, and inconsiderate. Why 99%? Because I know there is a 1% chance there is a good ending. I don't get cut off from literally everything. Reattain DW social media. I know this was posted earlier in Nanashi's screenshot, but ow. But I'll read it again here. Someone this selfish is usually completely incapable of seeing their own mistakes. Mind you, despite him being the accuser, he has the audacity of asking me to initiate conversation while cutting me off from every platform, as well as refusing to communicate by denying my friend request. This is effectively the previous situation. However, this time 100% of the fault is in him, and he decided to repeat everything that he accused me for, despite me listening to his woes. He's very lucky to have friends that are absolute doormats and prefer him to me, and I'll give it that. Responding to this person, when it comes to public image, maybe everyone does, but not when it comes to the ending of it all. Responding to Dark Hunter, yes, it's very difficult, especially the fact that I was targeted not once but twice personally. I don't feel it is fair to let him keep letting him get away with personal attacks like this. I am sorry, but again, there is a 99% chance we will proceed with the announcement regarding DW's social media and the future of DW hosting his mods. I have absolutely had enough. I have had absolutely enough. I have been stepped on. I have been toyed with. I have been showered with fake promises and lies. My relationship with people has been used as collateral, threatening to kick me out of the wall, and in turn, all big projects in the future, including those by other people. I don't know how to tell you the amount of ego you need to have to deny the owner of DW keys to their own projects while not wanting to be in DW after months of dangling keys of a smooth reconciliation. That is straight up selfish. There is no other words for it, period. And asking Dark Hunter, can I at least proceed with this now? For everyone else, the question is clear. Him or me, that is all. By the time he gives his response, I want you to make an informed decision, and if it is worth not blocking or supporting someone so egotistical and inconsiderate. One of our ex-moderators went rogue and hates me so much for no reason, made me go over 2 months of rebuilding DW according to his request, and now he decided to cut me off from multiple friend groups and delete me from everything, including Honkai Star Rail, as well as denied my friend requests, yet he has the audacity to ask me to talk to him. Enabling DMs to friends only, generally most selfish person I've ever seen to breathe oxygen in my entire life. Bro, I would rather call this person a good person and kiss his feet than doing favors for this guy again. It's actually that bad. The language and framing used by Yeon Seok in this conversation was inappropriate, emotionally escalatory, and inconsistent with responsible leadership, even if the conversation was private. No member of the current staff team supports or defends these messages, including Yeon Seok himself. As a result of this, Yeon Seok would no longer hold management or decision-making authority within Derivative Works or related projects. This section exists to acknowledge and assess these statements transparently. However, it does not negate the documented sequence of events prior to reconciliation attempts or subsequent unilateral actions by others, which are addressed separately. Absurd behavior. Use of absolutist phrasing. Use of absolutist phrasing. 100% his fault. There is no other word. Period. End. Repeated character attacks. Selfish ego. Doormats. Framing outcomes as inevitable. 99% chance. The question is clear. Him or me. This language removes space for dialogue or de-escalation, mirroring much of the same escalation and character attacks that Barreto was criticized for doing, and converts this private conflict into a forced alignment scenario. For everyone else, the question is clear, him or me. Encouraging others to reassess support based on loyalty rather than facts, framing disagreement as complicity. Framing disagreement as complicity. These actions place undue pressure and stress on uninvolved parties, including people on Yeon Seok's side, while creating a binary framing of Yeon versus Barreto with the risk of weaponizing community relationships. Assigning intent. Values ego over collaboration, fake promises and lies. Treating refusal to engage as proof of malice rather than boundary setting. Assuming unanimous bad faith. Someone this selfish is incapable of seeing their own mistakes. None of these statements are evidence-based at this time and even undermine and even undermine credibility of factual claims by mixing them with assumptions and escalations of personal conflicts into moral condemnation. This cannot be denied in good faith, considering it is the exact same issues we criticize Barreto for: declaring intent to remove access, reassign projects, or make announcements while emotionally dysregulated. Treating project control as leverage in an interpersonal dispute. These decisions about shared projects and in general should not be made under acute emotional distress, nor in a rush spur of the moment situation. This is a major point of complaint against Yi Hyun-seok and his leadership in derivative works, and reinforces concerns about over-personalization over leadership positions, and unfortunately directly parallel what he thought was Barreto's original intention about the Cabal Group. Under these circumstances, there is no way for Yi Hyun-seok to maintain any sort of management position within these groups and projects. Yi Hyun-seok has not only agreed and volunteered to step down from management as part of accountability, but has also acknowledged many of his problematic behaviors in the previous segments. These leaders represent a failure to uphold the standards expected of leadership and directly contributed to the decision to remove him from management and decision-making roles, amongst other factors. While these statements are serious and warrant accountability, they do not alter the documented timeline of events preceding them, including the prior reconciliation, prolonged refusal of direct communication, and subsequent actions taken without renewed incidents. Those events are evaluated independently in this document based on available logs and testimony are part of and are I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, and are our part in upholding accountability. Conclusion. After a thorough examination based on all the evidence that has been provided in this document so far, we can ultimately conclude that Barreto's views and the following actions he took truly define his true relationship with Yi Hyun-seok and derivative works as a whole, which is still very negative despite the multiple statements from Barreto himself stating that they have reconciled. Behavioral inconsistencies. Reconciliation acknowledged, then nullified without new cause. Claims of non-escalation alongside active narrative shaping. Claims of clean disengagement while retaining influence. Subjective withdrawal reframed as moral necessity. Comparative perspective summary. From Yeon's perspective, conflict was addressed directly and was thoroughly resolved. Subsequent rupture has thus appeared sudden. And unexplained from Barreto's perspective. Withdrawal is justified by accumulated perspective. Past events are reinterpreted as systemic patterns. Accountability. While Yi Hyun-seok, Kik-Husum, and other related parties have taken actions which reasonably invite criticism, a consistent complaint Barreto has towards them is lack of accountability, while he himself explicitly mentions he didn't want to mention any grievances he might have had, despite Yi Hyun-seok asking multiple times so that he can address something if it is bothering him. Complains about Yi Hyun-seok escalating conflicts, how he doesn't want it to escalate, yet escalates on his own anyway, does not acknowledge any wrongdoing or just lack of consideration he might have had at any point whatsoever, is very much aware of the poor mental state Yi Hyun-seok is in, yet shows an extreme amount of apathy and disregard for anything related to him, even if it means it will inconvenience himself, and instead uses such conditions as a means to justify his actions towards him. Okay. To Barreto, if you are reading this, we were always open to discussions, but after your actions behind the scenes and your repeated statements of not wanting to be affiliated, we had no choice but to break off communication. These actions, combined with your having repeatedly chosen to ignore messages regarding Yeonseok and have refused to engage in any sort of conflict resolving communication caused harm to the people who had previously believed the situation had been resolved and were doing their best to reach out to you in hopes of understanding, some of whom at that point consider you as friends. If you are going to invite others to your server, it is important to acknowledge that many of these issues could have been avoided with open dialogue, which is something that you have continuously avoided, often in favor of creating a narrative that suits your position or to avoid inconveniencing yourself. We are also aware that this message may be sent to you without the rest of the document for context. Here we are not Hence, we are not responsible for any further misunderstandings that may occur as a result of this. We truly did not wish to have to create this document. However, recent developments have left us with no choice but to present our side of the story, as we have been consistently portrayed as the bad side by some due to a lack of context from our side, which has even led to others distancing themselves from us. That being said, we are still open to communication with users on the other side of the situation. Our contact information is available at the end of this document. This document is courtesy of Dark Hunter, Void, Duskhorn, Kikasum, Nanashi, Beb, Yeon, Unknown, Roxas. Feel free to contact any of the users above if you have any further questions. It is highly encouraged to do so to clear misunderstandings. With the exception of Yeon, who currently cannot respond immediately due to a medically imposing state, but he will still respond to inquiries on a later date. If you wish to inquire with him, it is still encouraged. Ow. My neck hurts so much. Ow. Okay. Ow. Okay. All right. So I hope I didn't misinterpret anything, but I do have my own thoughts on the matter. I do agree that Yeon's actions aren't a lot of the actions that Yeon takes towards certain matters is not the best. It's not savory. And I do have I do agree somewhat with Barreto about how Yeon talks a lot in the server, gets mad at certain things that were kind of blows things out of proportion. It makes it hard for other people to just hop in and talk. I will admit I'm guilty of not being there, not saying anything, but do not agree with I do not agree at all with Barreto's actions. All he had to do was communicate. They're the main they're the main people behind all this. Yeon was open to communicating. He is trying to get better. But Barreto is not giving him that opportunity. But uh, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Um, yeah. If what if you can read the document yourself if you feel like it. I have the link in the description on the YouTube video, and you can come to your own conclusion. All I'm going to say here is that uh, thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of Derivative Works. Regardless of what happens to these users that's mentioned here, mods will still be made for the game. There's still some support for it. I will still do streams of it and such. But beyond that, that's about it. Hope you all have a good day, and we'll see how things go from here. Take care. Um, okay. That's the recording done. Okay. There's a new Twitter page for Derivative Works, separate from the renamed one. Okay. Ow. Ow, my neck freaking hurts. Ow. I hate the cold. Okay, but anyway. Thanks all for watching. Ow. Sorry. That's a different project. Let's see. Ah, shit. There's some things also going on Discord, but that's not really what we're here for today. So, yeah, I'm gonna end the stream here. Thanks all for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye.